Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Weapons being out, I wouldn't be talking to you.
Right.
And neither would Davis.
Right.
Rick, at this point, I'd like to ask you about some of the controversies that came up. You were fast tracking, I guess you could say. I mean, you were having a successful career in the CIA. If you Google Ric Prado today, I mean, there's some pretty wild stuff that comes up about you, about how you were a hitman down in Miami. You're doing these bombings and assassinations. In your book, you at least allude to how some of this stuff came about, and I'd like to really give you the opportunity to kind of address some of this stuff and talk about how this came about, because I think that you've kind of been unfairly tarnished, to tell you the truth. I even had a misperception about you, I think, until I read your book and heard your side of it. I was like, oh, okay, that's where this came from.
Yeah. Well, I'll make no excuses for my upbringing. I hung out with the wrong crowd when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. We weren't robbing banks or doing shoot 'em ups, but we were always fighting and getting in trouble and that kind of stuff. I had good grades and bad conduct. We all thought that we were tough guys. Everybody else was smoking dope, but we were lifting weights and doing martial arts and getting in fights on the weekends, kind of
with
stuff.
hippies at the flagpole.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was a justifiable. Like I said, that's the first one that really felt good. But some of the guys I grew up with became cops. Some of the guys that I grew up with became robbers and drug dealers. And when one of them became very, very famous, I got dragged. This was in 1990, late 91, I believe it was. I was in the Philippines when I got called in because, to say, you were associated with this guy. And we have sources saying that, you were, his strong arm and all this other stuff, it was all BS. I survived that. I mean, they did all kinds of background checks. They fingerprints, you name it, a blood test.
They even took castings of your foot at one point.
Yeah, it was actually handprints, I believe. It may be footprints also. There was a crime scene where there was bloody prints. And they mentioned that to me. And I said, guys, I'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
Feet, hands, whatever you want. You could do all the testing you want, all the polygraphs you want.
Yeah.
And, anybody who's been in the community or even in the periphery of the community, two things. First of all, the filtering process is very strict. The background checks are very deep, financial, psychological. Neighbors are asked, school teachers are asked. And you do go through several polygraph tests where all these questions get addressed. And they're lifestyle polygraphs. It's not just, have you ever stolen something? I'm talking about, major stuff that will be addressed. So that's the first thing that is, points to the fallacy. The second part is, if I indeed had been involved with any of that they could even justify, much less prove, there's no way I would have continued in my career and rise to the ranks that I did. The sad thing is that what you got to read was much later. In 2009 is when my name was first ousted. I was working for the community. I had left CIA and I was working with Blackwater, pretty much doing the same thing, supporting the U.S. Special Operations world writ large, our community. And I was building some very good capabilities worldwide, and that was my job. Well, come the political downfall of Blackwater, I became that sticky booger between Black Ops, Blackwater, CIA. I recruited Cofer Black into Blackwater, who was my boss in CTC, and to this day one of my greatest friends. So that's when this myth started coming out. There was a guy, and I won't even mention his name, who came out with a stupid book that sold probably 20 copies and became an ebook. And it was based on a narco trafficker who had been jailed. He was dying of cancer, and he decided he was going to tell all kind of book. And this guy put it out there. it was shut down. A lot of people in Miami, prominent people in Miami, not me included, because I wasn't prominent nor in Miami, lawyered up and they kind of shut it down. But that's the sad thing. It became popular because it was what people were looking at. It was CIA, black operations, Blackwater doing stuff that they weren't really doing. I mean, they did a fantastic job with protecting our State Department and our agency folks. But it was a very hard period coming home to my wife and telling her on a Thursday that tomorrow I'm front page in the newspaper saying that I'm the head of CIA's hit squads.
You point out that you had a pretty airtight alibi for some of the crimes they were accusing you of, because you were actually deployed with the agency overseas when these crimes supposedly took place.
Yeah, this was like I said, this was all the fantasy stuff that people can spin up. We love conspiracy theories,
right? And
because most people do not know what the agency is really about, and that's one of the purposes of my book. The second is communism, guys. This is not a joke. It's our enemy, long term. So, excuse me. For them, it was a way of, now you had the guy who could tie in, former CIA guy, operations, had this bad background when he was a kid growing up.
Right.
And now he's doing this stuff at Blackwater, and that just snowballed into, these hit teams and all this kind of crap. So, thank you for allowing me to clarify that, because it was a very painful, but I retired as an SIS-2, which is Major General rank equivalent. And you guys know that there's no way that as a GS-14, I was going to survive and that they were going to cover up murders and stuff like that for me. It was
Ric Prado. Who's that?
Right.
Never heard of him.
Exactly.
Right. They would have been like, never heard of the guy.
So you're telling me that, Rick, that like as a senior CIA guy, you were not taking off your coat and tie at the end of the day and leaving your home, your 2 kids in high school, the wife you've been married to for 30 years, and going doing hits for the mob. That didn't happen?
No.
All right. So,
I'm sure that they would have paid like $5,000, $10,000 a hit. You know, like
that's chicken change.
That's some walking around money, right?
Chrome for my Harley.
Right.
So, Rick, I think the next thing the agency had you doing, going after hard targets, they sent you, I guess they're trying to make an honest man out of you.